All right. All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Daniel Ladd, a business retirement strategist, and I'm excited you've joined me today to learn about a powerful wealth building strategy that most financial advisors just don't talk about. Now, before we begin, I'm excited to announce that everyone who stays until the end of today's webinar will receive a free copy of my Business Retirement Vault book, which only sells for $49. And for those who qualify, I'll also be offering a complimentary strategy session to see if this approach might be the right situation for you. Now, today we're tackling the consultant's dilemma head on, how to stop choosing between easily accessible cash that barely grows and accounts that are high growth but barely accessible. And I'll be showing you the business retirement vault strategy, which eliminates this forced trade-off. Now, before we dive in, I want to make it clear that this presentation isn't about high risk investments or get rich quick schemes. Instead, it's about a systematic approach to building wealth that gives you control, protection, and tax advantages that most traditional financial strategies simply don't offer. Now, let me tell you a little bit about myself. My journey into financial strategy began studying at physics at Florida Institute of Technology. And that analytical training taught me to break down complex problems and find solutions others miss. And I approach financial strategies like solving an equation, finding hidden variables most people overlook. And as a strategist, I've spent years developing expertise in areas that go beyond conventional thinking. In 2024 alone, I've helped over 30 clients implement the Business Retirement Vault strategy with remarkable results. And what really sets my approach apart is my focus on working directly with select clients rather than building a massive following. I deliberately keep my client base small because this strategy requires optimization and personal attention and customization. And I'm not selling courses to thousands. I'm working with professionals who meet specific criteria and can truly benefit. Now, this isn't for everyone, and that's by design. My goal isn't to help everyone with their financial problems. It's to provide exceptional results for the right clients who are the perfect fit for our strategies. And my aha moment came when I realized prof- professionals face an impossible choice: either save money for retirement or keep money liquid for gaps and opportunities. And traditional financial planning wasn't designed to solve this challenge. And today I'll show you what most professionals do with their money, why their approaches fall short, and a strategy that delivers both long-term growth and immediate access when you need it. And throughout today's presentation, you'll see how our approach delivers what I call the 3 L's of financial freedom: liquidity, leverage, and legacy. 3 elements that most financial strategies force you to choose between. Now, let's establish our example before we get into everything. Someone investing $25,000 per year for 10 years, totaling $250,000. This could be any professional serious about building wealth. And let's see how this performs in different vehicles. Now, let me share a real example that illustrates this problem perfectly. One of our clients, Karen, had been in consulting for over 30 years. And after decades of hard work, she finally landed some high-paying contracts and started seeing significant income. But like many consultants, she was cautious with her money. She wanted to make sure she had enough liquidity to cover gaps between contracts, meet payroll for her team, and, handle any unexpected expenses. So she did what seemed safest. She kept her money in checking and savings accounts. And by the time Karen came to me, she had accumulated hundreds of thousands just sitting in bank accounts. And she thought she was being financially responsible. But in reality, her money was doing virtually nothing for her, with the average return of just 0.45% when we looked under the hood. Think about that. If you have $1 million sitting in a savings account, you're earning just $4,500 a year in interest. Meanwhile, inflation's eroding your purchasing power at 3 to 4% annually. And Karen was effectively losing money every single year, despite her impressive savings, without even realizing it. And this is a dilemma so many people face. You work incredibly hard to earn the money during your active contracts, but then the fear of illiquidity or liquidity needs during contract gaps forces you to make decisions that sacrifice your long-term financial growth. And the average returns and savings accounts is just 0.45%, not even 1%. So if you contribute $250,000 over 10 years, that's about $2,083 per month. And your interest earned is only $5,625 total. That's just $562 a year in growth. And I understand why professionals make this choice. You need that liquidity when contracts end or when opportunities arise. But this approach sacrifices your long-term financial future for short-term access. And Karen's situation is all too common. She was a successful consultant by any measure, but her fear of illiquidity was costing her hundreds of thousands in potential growth. And what she needed wasn't an all or nothing approach, but a strategy that could provide both growth and access. And on the other hand, in the other end of the spectrum, many professionals are told put their money into traditional retirement accounts like 401ks, IRAs, TSP accounts, defer your taxes, defer, right? And on the surface, this seems like a solid approach. But my client, Brian, who is 50 years young, had accumulated $800,000 in his TSP account after a successful military career. And on paper, he'd done everything right, according to traditional advice. But here's the problem. He's not able to touch that TSP account until he's 59 and a half without facing significant penalties. And despite saving diligently for decades, he wants to retire early and enjoy the fruits of his labor. But he's forced to either just live off his pension and limited personal savings until 59 and a half, take on another job during what should be his retirement years, or pay a hefty penalty to access his own money. And this is the fundamental flaw with traditional retirement accounts for consultants and professionals who value flexibility. Now, let's take a look at the numbers, right? Now, with an average return around 7%, your $250,000 contribution over 10 years would grow to about $360,593. That's a gain of over $110,000, which sounds impressive, right? But there's a major problem with this picture. It's all before taxes, and you can't access it until retirement without significant penalties. My client Brian's story is just one example of the inflexibility built into these accounts. For professionals, this is especially problematic when a contract ends unexpectedly or an opportunity requires capital, your money is locked away. Like accessing it before 59 and a half means a 10% penalty plus ordinary income tax, easily 30 to 40% of your hard-earned money. Would you be happy with your money being tied up like that? So while traditional retirement accounts seem attractive on the surface, they create a serious liquidity trap. They force you to choose between saving for retirement or having access to your money when you need it, a choice no professional should have to make. Now, here's where the rubber meets the road. Following the traditional approach with that $360,593 in your 401k, IRA, or TSP, right? Now, using the standard 4% withdrawal rule, right? The 4% rule. If you don't know what that is, you need to Google that. You get about $14,424 yearly. That's not monthly, yearly, before tax. And after even a modest tax rate, that's roughly $12,925 yearly. That's about $1,077 monthly. Think about that for a moment. After 10 years of diligently contributing $2,083 per month, your monthly retirement income is only $1,077, about half of what you're putting in each month. Have you ever done this math before? Because most have not. And you'll also face limited control over your money when you need it most. 10% penalties for early withdrawals during contract gaps. Required minimum distributions when you reach retirement age. And continued exposure to market volatility. And these limitations are especially problematic for those who have unpredictable income. Now, there's another serious issue with market-based accounts. the devastating impact of market losses. Consider this really simple example. You start with $10 in the market. The market has a bad year and drops 50%. How much do you have left? You only have $5 left. The next year, things recovered and the market went up 50%. How much are you at now? Most people think $10. No, you're actually only at $7.50. This is the mathematical reality that catches many people by surprise. When you lose money in the market, you need a much bigger gain just to recover. Not to profit, recover. So if you lose 20% of your money, you need a 25% gain just to break even. But God forbid you lose 50% of your money in the market. You need 100% gain. That means the market has to double just for you to get back to zero. And our client, Mary, she had about 150,000 in her investment accounts and worked with a full-time advisor who managed her portfolio. And Mary rarely communicated with her advisor because she always felt like she was with the right person. And the real problem was that Mary only looked at the quarterly or monthly statements showing gains and never examining her overall performance. And when we analyzed her portfolio over the past 5 years, we discovered something shocking. She was actually negative 5% overall, even though the market actually was up in the past 5 years. And Mary had no idea that the retirement money she was living off of had actually decreased by 5% over 5 years, despite what appeared to be gains in some of her statements. She was focused on the trees while missing the forest. And we all saw this play out in 2008. The market crashed 38.5%, then gained 23.5% in 2009. But investors were still significantly underwater, and many people needed years to recover those losses. When was the last time you looked at your overall performance? For most of us, the recovery time is especially problematic because if the market crashes during a gap between contracts when you might need to access your funds, you're forced into a terrible choice. Either sell at a loss or struggle financially while waiting for recovery. Now, let's look at a different approach that addresses these unique problems. So here's where things get interesting. What if there was a financial vehicle specifically designed to address the consultant's dilemma? And what if you could participate when the market goes up, but completely avoid the losses when it goes down, while still maintaining access to your money during times of need? That's exactly what index accounts offer. Now, an index account is linked to the market, but not directly invested in it. So this creates a contractual agreement with two crucial features. First, you'll never lose money due to market performance. That's a contractual guarantee. Second, when the market goes up, your money increases with it. The company is just going to take a little off the top for themselves. Now, unlike traditional investments, where you're riding the market roller coaster with no safety rails, index accounts give you protection on the downside while still letting you capture gains. And this stability is crucial for those who can't afford to see their accumulated wealth disappear during a market downturn that just happens to coincide with a gap between contracts or retirement or a life event. Now, let me show you how this works with a real example many of us remember. In 2000, the dot-com bubble, right? And the market dropped 10.1%. Then 2001, down again. 2002, down again. 3 straight down years. Now, but with an index account, your money stayed right where it was at, 0% each year. No losses. Then in 2003, when the market finally rebounded, it went up 26.4%. Now, this specific index account gained 11.2. So when the market drops, your money stays put. When it rises, you capture a portion of those gains. And this is why I tell my clients, zero is your hero. Because never losing money is incredibly powerful for professionals who need both growth and stability. Warren Buffett said one of the main rules he lived by is never lose money. Same thing with Grant Cardone. Think about that for a second. Now, consider the 2008 financial crisis, something most of us remember all too well. The market crashed 38.5%. Some lost entire fortunes that year. Do you know someone that happened to? Unfortunately, most of us do. But index accounts, they stayed at 0%, not a penny lost. Then in 2009, when the market began recovering with a 23.5% gain, and don't forget, that's not enough to get traditional investors back to break even. Index accounts captured gains between 8.8% and 17.5% that year. Imagine being a professional during that time, while others watch their retirement accounts plummet. Those with index accounts maintain their financial foundation. This provided freedom to be selective about opportunities, negotiate better terms, or even take time off if needed. Now, looking at the 20-year historical averages across different index accounts tells a really compelling story. Some indexes averaged 7 to 7.3%, other performed at 8 to 10%, and one delivered at a 12% average return. Now, combining these 5 indexes, the average return was 8.8%, and that was achieved with zero downside risk. And your principal is contractually protected. This is the key advantage most financial advisors never discuss. Yes, you might capture slightly less upside in the very best years, but you never have to recover from losses. You're always moving forward, never backwards. Think about how this transforms your financial planning. No more roller coasters. No more watching the news, worried about your portfolio. No more hoping you don't face a financial challenge during a market crash. No more feeling like you need to be a financial guru. Instead, you get a steady, predictable growth pattern that creates real financial confidence. And when your life direction isn't guaranteed. And what I say to people is that you're always going to make the wrong decision in life. There's always going to be somewhere the grass is always greener. But would you rather your wrong decision be an option where you don't lose anything, or would you rather it be something that you lose? Now, this is where the business retirement vault strategy delivers on all 3 L's of true financial freedom. Liquidity. You can access your money when you need it without penalties. Leverage. You can make your money work in multiple places at once through our self-banking strategy. Legacy. You can create wealth that passes to future generations tax-free. Now, while traditional approaches force you to sacrifice at least one of these critical elements, the BRV strategy integrates all 3 of these simultaneously. Now, let's talk about the business retirement vault strategy. And this is where everything we've discussed comes together to create an ideal solution for professionals. Now, the BRV isn't just a financial product. Remember that. It's a comprehensive wealth building system. At its core is a specifically designed, max-funded indexed universal life policy. But the complete strategy encompasses asset integration, tax optimization, legacy planning tailored to your specific situation and needs. Now, this strategic approach unlocks powerful advantages from the IRS Tax Code 101A, creating 3 game-changing benefits. First is your money grows completely tax-free. No taxes on gains. Now, for consultants and professionals who are already paying significant self-employment tax, this tax advantage is substantial. Second, you can access your money without triggering tax events. This is crucial during those inevitable gaps between contracts or when you need capital for your life or business. And third, the death benefit passes to heirs tax-free, creating a lasting legacy. But the BRV strategy goes well beyond the tax advantages. You get the zero loss guaranteed protection, the growth potential from index-linked returns, complete liquidity once funded, and total control over your money, and efficient wealth transfer through strategic structuring. And what makes the BRV completely different from typical financial approaches is our holistic methodology. We analyze your entire financial picture, integrate all components from asset positioning to trust structures to cash flow management. And this comprehensive approach allows you to build accessible wealth and create tax-free income streams in years, not decades. Now, this creates a financial foundation that remains stable regardless of income variability, providing both long-term growth and immediate accessibility. And we can even integrate your existing retirement accounts and other assets into this strategy, ensuring your money is always working optimally while maintaining liquidity the professionals require. Because let me show you a real-world example that really brings this to life. Here's a case study for a 50-year-old who contributes $25,000 a year for 10 years. That's a total of $250,000. The policy is designed to credit at 6.55% rate of return, which is actually conservative compared to the 8.88 historical average we just saw. Now, let's look at what happens. After 10 years, they've built over $265,000 in cash value, a solid foundation that remains completely accessible. Now, at age 62, they can take $29,052 in tax-free income every single year, providing a stable income regardless of workloads. And over their lifetime, that adds up to a potential $1.7 million in tax-free income. And while taking that income, the cash value does not deplete. It actually grows to $508,000 by age 70. Now, let's break this down year by year. So by year 10, age 60, they got $265,000 cash, right? Now, keep in mind, they're not taking income yet. They start taking it a little bit later at 62. But by year 20 or age 70, their cash value has grown to $508,000 while taking $29,052 annually. And by year 40, age 90, their cash value has increased to $2.2 million while still taking the same $29,052 every single year. This creates something traditional financial vehicles just can't. Predictable, tax-free income that isn't dependent on having active work, plus access to capital during your working years. Think about what this means. $250,000 contributed over 10 years generates nearly $30,000 of annual tax-free income for decades, while the cash value continues to grow instead of depleting. That's the power of becoming your own bank. Now I want to share what I consider the most powerful feature of the BRB strategy, the concept of becoming your own bank. And this is what really sets this approach apart and addresses the unique challenges of consulting income. Now, let me show you exactly how this works using our example of the $265,195 in your BRB after the first 10 years. It's a 3-step process that changes everything about how your money works for you. You access your money when you need it, right? You take out what's called an indexed loan for $265,000. The loan interest rate is about 3.2%. That's roughly $8,500 per year, right? Now, here's the game changer. Your money still grows inside the policy. That original $265,195 continues growing at the around 6.5% rate of return, which generates about $17,000 annually in tax-free growth. And the bottom line, you're probably asking, you're earning $17,000 a year while paying $8,500 in interest, right? But you're netting roughly $8,500 annually, all while you're using that $265,000 elsewhere. This is the true magic of becoming your own bank. You get to use your money for whatever you need, covering your expenses during contract gaps, investing in your business, or handling personal financial needs, while that same money continues to grow inside the policy. Think about this real-life example. A 50-year-old consultant builds $265,000 after 10 years. They can take about $29,000 per year in tax-free income. Their account value grows to over $500,000 by age 70. And over their lifetime, that could amount to over $1.7 million in tax-free income. all off of $250,000. Now, this solves the impossible choice between growth and access. You're not just earning a return. You're creating a financial system that works for you through both active contract periods and those inevitable gaps. Now, let's compare the business retirement vault strategy to traditional 401k/IRA approaches. And this is where the differences really become clear for professionals. Both approaches start with the same $250,000 over 10 years. But what happens next is dramatically different, right? So after 10 years, the traditional approach shows about $360,000, which looks better at first glance, right? Now, the BRV strategy shows about $265,000, which seems smaller initially. But when we look at the income, the traditional approach gives you around $13,000 per year after taxes, and the BRV gives you around $29,000 per year completely tax-free. That's more than double the income. And here's what I tell people. It's not about what you have, it's about what you can leverage. And with traditional approaches, your account value decreases every single year as you take withdrawals. With the BRV, your account value actually increases to over $500,000 by age 70, even while you're taking income. Now, for consultants specifically, traditional approach, you're exposed to market crashes, potentially during contract gaps, right? And the BRV approach, you have a zero loss protection, right? Regardless of market conditions. When it comes to accessing your money, traditional approaches, you got limited access, you got penalties, required distributions, and it's all taxed. It's taxed when it's taxed and taxed and taxed, right? While the BRV approach, you have control. It's your money. Use it when contracts end or opportunities arise. And this is why professionals like yourself are diversifying into these strategies. Now, let me share a real quick real-life example that shows the power of the strategy specifically for consultants. So my client, Karen, is a consultant who was completely focused on growing her business with almost no retirement planning, right? Like most people. And she had some money in an IRA, but no real strategy for handling the inconsistent income that came with her consulting work. And when we showed her how much of her retirement savings would be lost to taxes and how inaccessible her money would be during those contract gaps, she was done. And this was something her previous financial advisor had never explained. And we helped her implement the business retirement vault. And just 3 years later, it proved its value in a way that traditional accounts never could. When her son needed $7,000 to pay off his car during a period when she was at the end of her major contract, she was able to borrow the money from her policy tax-free in less than a week. And the loan rate was just 3.2%. And remarkably, that $7,000 she borrowed continued growing inside her policy as if she never touched it. This gave her incredible peace of mind knowing she could help her family without disrupting her whole long-term financial strategy. She's now repaying that loan on her own terms with no fixed schedule while building significant tax-free wealth for her future. And most importantly, she's no longer stressed about contract gaps because she knows she has a financial foundation that works regardless of her consulting schedule. And this is the business retirement vault in action. Provides both immediate liquidity when life happens and long-term financial security without compromise. Now, to summarize what we covered today, the business retirement vault delivers on all 3 L's, right, of wealth and a unique combination of benefits. You got protection from market losses during contract gaps, competitive growth potential of historical averages of 6 to 8%, tax-free growth and access, the ability to become your own bank, long-term tax-free income, liquidity when you need it most. And unlike traditional retirement accounts, this strategy gives you complete control over your money regardless of your contract status or your age. Protection from market volatility, like we've been seeing almost on the daily. Access to your capital when you need it. And substantial tax advantages. And the ability to build true generational wealth. Now, as promised at the beginning, Everyone who attended today's webinar will receive a free copy of my Business Retirement Vault book. Now, this comprehensive guide includes more detailed information about everything we've discussed, plus additional examples of how our clients are using this strategy to navigate the unique challenges of variable income. Now, to claim your free book, simply click the link that will appear in the chat on Zoom, not for the live people, fortunately, in just a moment. Now that you understand how the Business Retirement Vault works for professionals like yourself, let me share why scheduling a strategy session today is critical. If this approach interests you, of course, right? Now, the reality is most people miss is that qualifications for this strategy isn't guaranteed. I had a client recently who was excited about implementing this approach. He scheduled our strategy session, but decided to postpone finalizing things because of some routine medical appointments. Now, during those appointments, they discovered a very serious health condition. And despite his financial qualifications and genuine interest, he became instantly uninsurable for the strategy. And this isn't uncommon. These companies backing these policies are highly selective. It's precisely why they can offer guaranteed protection that we've discussed. Their strict underwriting standards are why you'll never lose money due to market performance. Now, beyond the health considerations, there's also the hidden cost of waiting. For every $100,000 sitting idle in low interest accounts, you're potentially leaving $6,000 to $15,000 on the table every single year. And that compounds year after year. And that's money that can never be recovered. And people say the rich get richer. It's not necessarily true. It's that the people that are playing the game are smarter and they're making sure that their money's working optimally. And that's what you have to ask yourself. Is your money working optimally for yourself? So if you're interested in seeing how this could work for your specific situation, your next step is scheduling a complimentary strategy session. During this personalized consultation, we'll analyze your current financial setup and identify optimization opportunities, determine if you meet qualification criteria for this strategy, and we'll create a custom structure that maximizes your specific situation, showing you exactly how the numbers would work for your goals, for your life, for your age, your situation. And we'll give you a clear, honest assessment, even if it means telling you this isn't the right fit. Now, what makes the difference from typical financial consultations is that I'm not looking to simply sell products. As I mentioned earlier, I deliberately maintain a small client base because proper implementation requires ongoing guidance and customization. And each structure needs to be precisely calibrated to avoid becoming just another underperforming policy. So due to the depth of analysis and customizations involved, I have just a few consultation slots available over the next few weeks. These are allocated on a first come, first serve basis. Now, to reserve your complimentary strategy session, click the link that will appear in the chat or text BRV to 321-282-6801. Again, that's 321-282-6801. Text BRV or text any questions you have. You'll be able to select a convenient time for us to connect. Now, remember, even if you ultimately decide this strategy isn't for you, you'll walk away with clarity about your options and specific recommendations for your situation. And the consultation itself delivers value regardless of what you decide. So thank you for joining me today. I hope this presentation is giving you valuable insight into a different approach to building wealth. Now, I'd like to open the floor for questions. This is your opportunity to get clarity on anything we've discussed today, or asking about how the Business Retirement Vault might apply to your specific situation as a professional or consultant. And I want to start by answering some of the questions I get most often from my clients. Now, while I'm going through these, please feel free to type any other questions you have into the chat or the Facebook Live. I'll keep an eye out on the chat and my assistant will. And I'll address as many of your individual questions as I can in the next few minutes. And for those of you who are on the live, the website to book is businessretirementvault.com/book now, which is on the screen. Okay, so let's start with the first common question I get, which is, How is this different from a Roth IRA? So unlike Roth IRAs, there's no 59 and a half age restriction or 5-year waiting period to access your money. You have complete flexibility with no contribution limits instead of the $7,000 to $8,000 a year you can put into a Roth IRA while still enjoying tax-free growth in distributions. This gives you access during those contract gaps without penalties, right? Now, another question I hear often is, what is the health qualification requirements? Now, requirements vary by company, but here's what's important. Our strategy focuses on cash value growth, not maximum insurance. And we've developed approaches that work for most health situations, even if you're not in perfect health. And we can typically find a solution that delivers similar returns while meeting your goals. Next question I have is, how quickly can I access my money? Now, we can structure your plan for accessibility in the first year if needed, or design for longer term growth. And like any financial vehicle, allowing time for growth is ideal, right? It's just like cooking, right? If you're constantly taking the food off the burner, it's going to take forever to finish, right? But if you leave it on there, it's going to come way quicker and be way better to enjoy, right? But we customize the accessibility timeline based on your specific cash flow needs. Now, here's another important consideration. People ask, what happens if I can't make payments during a period of time, right? This is exactly why we create flexible plans. We strategically structure them to accommodate variable income patterns of consulting. And unlike traditional life insurance, you pay until you die, right? That's what you typically do. We structure these where you put in X amount of cash for a certain period and that's it. And you don't put a single premium in ever again. That's typically 3 to 7 years we do, right? So now your money, you're having a death benefit for the rest of your life and you have access to your bank for the rest of your life. Now, your plan can be designed with built-in flexibility to handle those inevitable contract gaps without derailing your whole long-term strategy, all right? Now, next common question I get that needs to be addressed is, a lot of business models have their own intricacies. So people ask, how customizable is this for my situation or businesses? Complete customization is the cornerstone of our approach. Every plan is built specifically for your unique situation, okay, contract cycles and goals. This level of customization is why we limit the number of clients we work with each year. These aren't off-the-shelf solutions. So this next question goes towards leveraging and returns. So what are the tax implications of policy loans? Policy loans remain tax-free as long as the policy stays in force. And we carefully structure your plan to avoid creating what's called a modified endowment contract, or MEC, which would change the tax treatment. This ensures your access to funds maintains its tax-free status. Next is understanding like the mechanics of how money does not decrease inside the indexes, right? How does the zero loss protection work, right? Your money is tied to an index account with a contractual floor of 0. Now, the company measures performance on a year-to-year basis, not month-to-month, not day-to-day, year-to-year. So if the market goes up, you participate in those gains. If the market goes down, your principal remains intact. This creates steady, consistent growth over time without the setback of market losses. Lastly, people ask, what happens if tax laws change? Now, life insurance taxation has remained fundamentally unchanged since World War II because these policies are legally defined as life insurance, not investments. Key thing to pay attention, it's not an investment. They operate under a different section of the tax code. If they were classified as investments, they would have to have the ability to lose money, just like your savings account is not classified as an investment. Now, the death benefit structure ensures that they maintain their tax advantages despite changing political environments. And now that I've addressed the common questions, I want to transition to the chat and address as many of your individual questions as I can. Let me take a quick look, see what's coming. If you have not already, please put your questions in the chat. Give me just a moment. So give me a second to catch up on the chat. So I'm just going to read some of the comments. 401ks from Antoine aren't my favorite. My mother is currently almost at retirement age, but she borrowed from her 401k when she was in her early 50s and got hit with a couple $1,000s in fees. She ended up just pulling all of it out, invested in Landover, Alabama. Okay, thanks for that, sharing that experience. Julius asked, but I'm trying to wrap my head around how the money still grows while you borrow against it. Okay, so try to make this as simple as possible, and I can show this better in a one-on-one consultation, just to clarify, but we'll start here. So if let's say you have $500,000 inside your max fund index universal life. Now, you can withdraw money from here. You can pull the money out if you want to, but that's not the smart way of doing things, right? Because what happens if you pull money out? Your money stops working for you, right? Because you depleted the bank, essentially. Now, instead, you go to the insurance company and you fill out a one-page form and says, hey, I have $500,000 inside my max fund index universal life. I want to borrow against that. And there's that one-page form. They say, okay, you have it in the account. Cool. We're going to write you a check, direct deposit, whatever the case is. And they send that money to you. Now, they are not taking the $500,000 from the max funded index life account. They're giving you a loan from the insurance company, right? A low interest rate because they have your money as collateral inside the index, right? So they don't need to charge you an arm and a leg in interest because it's a collateralized loan. If you don't pay the interest, what happens? The death benefit takes care of it, and it's a wash because they have all the money they need, right? So they only charge you interest only. So keep that in mind, right? Now, since your money is still inside that index account, you never technically withdrew it. It's still growing at whatever interest rate of return it is at for that year or that month, right? So that 500,000, let's just say like last year, the market did about 24%. There was indexes that did 7. There was ones that did 21%. Now you have that $500,000 in your pocket for your business, for whatever you're using it for, right? But you got to pay the interest, right? Which the interest is only 3 to 5%, right? But it's simple math. If you have 5% on $500,000, how much is that? 500, right? But if you make 10% on that 500,000, how much is that? That's 50 grand. So your 25 grand in interest you paid for having that policy out, right? For you having the money in your pocket, you paid the insurance company the 25 grand. Now, they didn't charge you, they just took it from your interest. So you made still, because you made 50, you had a cost of 25, just like a business. So you netted 25 grand in a simply put hypothetical scenario. That's how it works. Now, some years are going to be better than others. Some years you're going to have a zero, right? And they're going to take that money from the index account. Other years you're going to have a gain. They're just going to take it from the interest. But the death benefit part covers the loans because you will always have more death benefits. So if you pass away, the policy is going to pay off any debt that you have. So you don't have to worry about that. So I hope that answers that question. That was a little bit more in depth, but yes, definitely schedule a call and we can go way more in depth into that. All right. And let's see. So does this work like a retirement account in the sense, like, let's say if I want to access my money, are there limitations based on my age, or do you need to be a certain age in order to draw from it? I guess I'm asking if there are any types of limitations or restrictions, right? Of course, there are limitations and restrictions on anything that is going to be classified as tax-free. The government is not stupid. What we're doing is we're working within the confines of the tax laws and using them to our advantage to get your money tax-free without age restrictions and time constraints, right? Now, there's certain time constraints we do have to bypass, right? Which we can go into in depth on exactly how that works, but we can get clients year one liquidity up to 80, 90% if they have the right setup. Keep that in mind. 40 to 80% is anywhere in the range. Now, Oh, well, I just read I answered the question. Well, I answered it again. So there you go. Yeah, no problem. Thanks for booking the call, Julius. All right, give me a second. Just make sure on the live side of things. Okay. Nothing that I haven't already answered. So, all right, with that, we are out of time. So if you didn't get your question answered today, or if you think of additional questions later, please be sure to schedule a complimentary strategy session with me, and we could dive deeper into your specific situation. Thank you again for your time. Don't forget to claim your free book using the link in the chat if you're on Zoom. And for those who qualify, I look forward to speaking with you in the strategy session soon. All right, bye for now.